There's no secrets.
Well, there's some secrets as far as there's some departures.
Well, the secret stuff or the proprietary stuff in there, they're not going to know from looking at it.
No, see, one of the aspects that when I first saw this amp, one of the things that I really liked is your choice of resistors, because I've never been a fan.
Yeah, you don't like the carbon
I don't like
comps.
carbon comps. I mean, they have a certain sound, they do something, but their values change as they heat up and cool down. They crackle, they get noisy. So I've always been a big fan of metal film, metal oxide, carbon film.
I only use them under low stress. I don't put them in any high stress positions. And then, my amps aren't real, there's not a lot of gain. There's not a lot of, but now with something like this, it probably would be too noisy. Justin Magani says that huge power transformer is the secret. Yeah, that's one of them. Don't tell anyone, Justin. Okay? It's just between us. Yeah? Can you guys see it okay? Should I move the camera closer? Or?
That power transformer is physically larger than the power transformer in a Marshall JCM 2000 100-watt amp. So,
yeah.
That says something.
Well, I mean, you let an amp have lots of beautiful, clean electricity, it can do more things. I am wearing shorts, but they're long shorts. You won't get any winks while I'm here. Man, it just kind of plays itself. Very easy. No, there's no effects whatsoever. This does have the, FET-driven buffered loop in here that Steve Miller designed. Not Steve Miller, the musician, but Steve Miller in Detroit. And I don't have it gained up too much. The gain's on like 6. I could go a lot worse. No, I mean, the only verb here is probably the room mics are picking up a little bleed from the isolation room that's down the hall. It's not really an isolation room, it's a closet. So here, I'll turn the vocal mics off real quick. So hear the difference? No, it's not a bump front end. It's treble mid bass with a gain and a master volume on the dirty side, and then the clean side, there's no master volume. So you can get your I'll show you here in a little bit, you can sort of get your straight up just EL84 under pressure sound, which is great. One of my favorites. But man, this is the first time I've played the finished one of these. We just got blessing on it yesterday. We built it and sent it back to him and said, tell us everything's good. plays itself. It's really easy. No, on the clean channel, the tone stack barely works. I mean, it does, but it's not as much. Let's go over clean here real quick. Ow! Something just went up my booty hole. This is not the most practical, ideal setup, but... So just like on the big whiskey, like the volume on the clean channel will pretty much mirror the master on the dirty channel. So. Whoa, what's out of tune here? To resort to the headphones. So the speaker's down the hallway here, so. I got a bright switch over here. You want it all the way up, Hoss? Okay, I might overdrive the thing here, but... So that's a clean channel, just all the way up. So you were talking about Ronnie Wood earlier. That's kind of that sound, right? That's on the clean channel all the way up. And here's the dirty channel. Let me give it even dirtier and a little more heat. Turn the gain down on the clean channel a little bit. can you call you're playing ham-fisted rock and roll? Sounds like good drinking music to me. Well, yeah, because I'm not sitting around going... on a blues song. I don't want to say names, Joe Bonamassa, because that'd be rude. Yeah, that's a great rhythm sound right there. Scales, man.
In the spirit of low tech and snapshots, I'm posting an Instagram video.
Oh, good. It's great rhythm sound right there. You've got your... Ah! This is the Lil Whiskey, finally for release. Rhythm sound, huh? Yeah, this is the clean channel push. The clean's on like 7 right now. My foot switch, darn it. Bill Studio asks, what's the difference between the whiskey, Little Whiskey, and the Big Whiskey? The Big Whiskey is 50 watts. It runs on 6L6s. This is 18 to 20 watts that runs on EL84s. Big sound in a little box. This amp's easy to play.
Don't get carried away. Attend to your audience.
I know. Sometimes they like it if I just shut up and play guitar, though.
actually unplug all these connections.
Yes.
And I want to walk up to the camera with it, and then you can do verbiage.
Yeah, give me a couple minutes, and then it'll need to cool down because you'll burn yourself on them tubes. Not those ones. That power transformer, can you even tell that it's on?
These are hot, but EL84s generally run really hot. Phase inverter gets a little hot, but
Yeah.
it's not too.
It's getting a lot of signal.
You need a second camera, so you could like leave that set up, but then do a split frame kind of
All that stuff's really doable. It just takes money.
money.
Yeah. What did DiMarzio patent the color? No.
The cream, Gibson had cream pickups before DiMarzio was even invented.
Right. Genie. It's just a great British rhythm sound.
Gibson had cream colored bobbins before DiMarzio was even invented.
I don't think anybody had a patent on colors.
Unless it's a hair color.
Well, I mean, every combination Gibson did just because that's what they had laying on the shelf when they made stuff. So there's prior art on everything.
I mean, hair colors.
Push
they
this a
might
little
like
harder.
Honey almond blonde, whatever.
Right. Yeah, that works. I got the clean channel on about 8 now. Ziggy playing guitar. This guitar doesn't roll back very well. Yeah, that's just great. Listen to that. For just good rock and roll rhythm sound.
It's amazing how much you lose,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Well, it's 30 feet away from us in a closet, so.
with the door closed.
With the door closed, right. You lose a little bit that way. Yeah, Haas, this would be a good. I wish I had a color bender here. That'd be perfect. Wow, that rhythm sound is just killer. Pick and Pop says, is that the $25,000 prototype from a few months ago? No, this is the first one with the new build. Like I showed you the build on the Big Whiskey last week. This is the Little Whiskey. And the same build style as the Big Whiskey. So we'll show it to you here shortly. You just got to listen to me noodle on guitar for a few minutes. So this is the first time I've played this. I played an earlier version of the prototype. Yeah, it's a hybrid. I played an earlier version that had different power transformer on it and a couple of different things. And this is the first time I got the note this morning that it's ready to go. I hope it's ready to go. We're not going to burn the place down. But yeah, that rhythm sounds just freaking great. Hoss, you were talking about Jimmy Page. That's kind of the sound, isn't it? That's it. You hear the guitar and the dirt. Gotta make it go dissonant like that. Ring me, Zepp lawyer's calling. I know, I already got banged by Zeppelin once, didn't I? I was doing the...
That
was a Billy Squier song, and then I started talking about how that's really close to a Zeppelin song. And then I couldn't remember how to play the lick, so I looked it up on YouTube during the show. And then played it and showed everyone how to play it. And then Zeppelin's lawyers shut down my whole YouTube channel unless I pulled the video and agreed that I had violated their shit. But I can at least go... How's it go? Been a long time since I walked in the moonlight. Yeah.
The one about Mike signs off on the new ones.
Oh, Mike doesn't work here anymore, sadly. Mike hasn't worked for us for... year and a half now, something like that. Yeah, a year and a half.
But everybody still interacts with each other. I mean...
Oh, it was a friendly thing. It's a long story, but Mike had some personal needs that needed to be met, and it just didn't work out with our arrangement. So we're still friends, and he still does service work for us, and I still throw him...
2 days ago.
Yeah, I still throw him every bit of work I possibly can, but he's working part-time at Bad Cat now. He works Monday through Wednesday at Bad Cat, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he's got his own shop here in North Hollywood, which was actually 65 Amp's first shop, and where he and I worked on like the London and the Soho and the Marquee and stuff together. That's his shop now, and he's probably the best vintage repair guy in town, or probably in California. Over to Garage.
In the back, because somebody was there, and the back door's open.
Oh yeah, go in there and look real quick. Yeah, we should close that door at least. Zeppelin's lawyers are breaking in right now. Let's gain this up a little more. So this is the gain on 9, the master's on 4. Thompson, have I tried Callahan bridges? Yeah, I have one in that white Strat. That's up there. I like it a lot. Man, that just sounds huge in the headphones. Does that sound big out there? I know they compress the daylights out there. I'm just loving it. Anyone there?
Closed. The door was closed.
Oh, okay. It would sound better in purple. All right, Hoss.
Did you
We'll
try
do
to
it,
do
man.
one of these by any chance with grid bias?
Yeah, you know, we try it both ways. The cathode works better on
Well-
this. With grid bias, it got a little bit, on this particular one, it got a little bit literal. You know, like it got a little bit where it sounded like it was verging on pedal. You know, it lost its elasticity to it.
The only grid bias EL84 amp that I know of that's common is the Fender Blues Junior.
Right. But they got tiny, tiny iron in there, so they can kind of
Well,
make
they
up.
have tiny everything because it's an inexpensive.
Right. But so that grid bias will stiffen it up a little bit and not make it sound so puny.
Well, basically the main reason they did that is so they could use. That amp was originally intended to be a 6V6 amp, but 6V6s were A, more expensive, and B, they had to use two different size sockets,
Right.
and they didn't want to do that.
Right.
It was an
Yeah,
amp
we
built
might-
to a price point, not to a tone.
Right. So technically right now I could take the big whiskey, put 6V6s in it, and use the other tap on the power transformer, and I have another amp. With a couple of components changes for the biasing and stuff. Grid resistors.
How this sounded with 6V6s.
Right.
Again, if you want a 6V6 amp that kind of does a lot of different things, then Empire is kind of the way to go.
Right. Different circuit though, totally.
Yeah.
Well, the Empire is the next one we're going to do on this hybrid board, and we're going to make a few changes to it. So that's probably a smart way to go. So that'll be a 3-channel version of this. Well, I don't hardly know.
My favorite.
That's like Sophie's Choice, though, isn't it? You can't.
My favorite.
You're still kind of at the
65.
Ventura, aren't you?
Okay. It's probably the Ventura from a versatility standpoint.
Yeah.
The problem is Dan and I our styles of what we like are very, very different. For example, Dan likes Vox AC30s. I really dislike Vox AC30s. I'm a Fender blackface kind of guy.
Yeah. It's my least favorite amp.
And to me, like
But
a
we still can
Marshall-
talk together. Like, we can still be friends.
Yeah, it's like a Marshall. As soon as they put a master volume control on a Marshall, to me they turned into garbage, and the 800 was worse, and the 900 was even worse, and the, you know.
Well, the very first 900s, 800s, like 79, before they put the clipping diodes in them, because the very first ones were basically a Mark II master volume with an extra gain.
2204.
2203.
Yeah, but
that's what this circuit is.
It evolved into the 2204.
It has one more triode.
Right.
Than a Mark II master volume. That's the only difference between a 2203 and the Mark II master volume, which are both great amps. And I think Marshall wisely made that because they were realizing everyone in the rock scene was taking their Mark II master volume and having a mod put on it for an extra gain stage. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the first 800s were. And then they, instead of doing something clever and neat, they just put clipping diodes in it. And then that became the Silver Jubilee, which when they made
which is a Kaka amp.
When they
you might like it, but I don't.
But when they made the 900, they just changed the JCM 800 into the Silver Jubilee and put a little more gain with clipping diodes. Again, clipping diodes.
But basically, I went to actually Dan and Mike at one point when the Ventura was first being built, and the clean tones on that were just really amazing. And I said, you know, the fact that it has 3 other sounds on selections,
right.
It's like, I don't need I wouldn't want a foot switch. And by the way, the effects loop jacks, you can leave those out of the amp. I don't want, like any of that stuff. So yeah, Dan is British and I'm more American.
Willie, that's the hallmark of the Silver Jubilee is the clipping diodes. That's its sound. They actually have bigger, dirtier clipping diodes in that than they do in the later JCM 800s.
Dan could never make me a perfect amp using my recipe because what I would do, he knows what my recipe is. I would just go to David Hayes and I would have David build me a Fender Vibroverb reissue.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't come to me for that.
Exactly. Well, it already exists.
Right.
Well,
David Hayes.
I'd go buy a dual Showman.
But David Hayes does it perfectly.
Yeah.
Better built than any Fender. Please kill me. Why, Justin? We love you. Oops. That was a fret.
Then again,
clipping diodes,
London, if you play a London on the color channel and only turn it up to about 5, the cleans on that are spectacular.
Oh, yeah, especially with single coils.
Yeah. No, the black Vibroverb.
Let's try a Strat through here real quick, and then we'll show everybody the guts. Speaking of Callahan bridges, I'll get down. I don't know what the strings are like on this thing now, but if it's anywhere near in tune.
Yeah, when I was growing up, the only Marshalls I owned were like JTM 45, which is basically a lot like a Tweed Bassman.
It's a lot like a JTM 44. Just a little. It's one more. I haven't played a Strat in a long time. Let's see what you do here. These guys make a lot of noise under these lights, these unpotted pickups. Yeah, these are the wrong pickups.
Need something in here.
No, it's me because I have these Variacs on the lights.
They need P90 guitar.
There's the Friedman guitar. Yeah, we can play that one. Yeah, I think these pickups are going to be too noisy in here. Willie says potting reduces noise from lights. Really? I didn't know that.
debatable.
I'm kidding you, Willie, because I get all my pickups intentionally unpotted because they sound better. They just unfortunately don't work in a situation like this with a lot of lights on Variacs.
Dimmers.
But if you want to make a recording or you want to play live, no, my 63 Junior's not here, nor is I have that Elliott Tone Master with great pickups. I forgot how good this guitar is. A little bit too much bass in there for that. Let's see what we got here. You missed the dog cameos too. Yeah, that was great. That picture you posted, Miles. That Doberman looking right at my border collie's butt, going, "That's some sweet ass right there, boy." Coming up. Here's to the new boss. Same as the old boss. That sounds good. Miles had a London for a while. Still owe you a Ventura, though.
A Ventura would be the easiest thing to throw in the car and take everywhere. I typically take an amp whenever I go somewhere because it's self-preservation. If it's a crappy amp at the gig, then I have to listen to it.
Right.
Or if I bring my own during sound check, I can say, "Gee, want to try this for a second?" And in every case, people end up
buying it,
hanging on to it, or wanting to use it for the show.
So you just turn the gain down here. Maybe we can keep the noise down on this channel. a noise. Maybe there's I can try one of Dave's. Anyway, you guys want to see the inside of this amp? It's almost 1 o'clock. So what you got to witness was me just getting to know my own amp here. We finally got the final version of it. A lot of you have noticed that it has a magnanimously huge power transformer on it, which really adds a lot, I think. That works. All right, let's cool her off. And thank you guys for allowing me to just test my own product right in front of you. And I apparently liked it because I couldn't stop playing now for 50 minutes, which is a very good sign. That is a very good sign. Danny like a lot. So any comments or questions? They want you to play guitar, Miles.
No, you don't.
So we've never heard Miles play, and it's about time with a...
No,
there's
actually,
like 5 exclamation points.
I don't play guitar. The reason I came up with guitars is there's somebody I know, Allison, who makes moody guitar straps, and I really loved her straps and suede on the inside, and they're just masterpieces.
That's what you loved about her, was her straps?
Exactly. I loved her guitar straps. So I have a lot of her straps, and I used to stand there sometimes in front of a full-length mirror with just a strap on, and it looked really stupid. So I said, I need to put something on this strap.
You had no clothes on, just a strap?
Yeah, but if I got a guitar...
That's an image for you.
If I got a guitar, I could attach to the strap, and that's why I went into guitar.
Ah, gotcha.
Is I needed something to hang from the strap.
Jan Vandal, this is the Little Whiskey. The Little Whiskey. We played the big one last week. This is the 18-watt version, pair of EL84s. Reverend Randy says, I'd really like to pair that little Elvis with Little Whiskey. Oh, yeah, you'd be done. Yes, Willie, those are Lawlers. Those are unpotted special ones that he made for me. They're a little noisy, clearly. They're not great for this particular setup. Bill Studio says, I think that amp sounds versatile and very musical. Good job, man. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Maybe you need one in your studio, Bill Studio. Jan Vandal, this is a pair of EL84s. So it's, 18, 19, 20 watts. Depending on how much power is coming out of your wall at home.
For people that were asking about the vibroverb that are Facebook friends or whatever with me, I just posted a picture on the page. That's the one I'm talking about, not the...
You posted one of David's?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The 15-inch that used to use a 15-inch JBL.
The K15 or whatever.
D140 or 150.
Yeah, D150.
And then, but I also like dual Showmans. I like the single Showman more than the dual Showman.
The blonde Showman?
It has the tone ring in it, and it's a reflex design speaker.
Peter has a 61 Showman. It's blonde, white, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, if you get the cream ones with the maroon grill cloth.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the
61, and man, it's just dead stock. He hasn't done anything to it, and it just rocks.
Yeah, and then the dual, one of their
soon, Jan, soon.
The big 100-watt combo thing, that came out of their custom shop.
So complete change of subject. So Jan Vandal brings up, I posted something on Facebook today, this guy who made a sushi roll. And
I saw that, the bacon
with the
roll.
beef, with the cheese in the middle, and then he crusts it in like tortilla chips. You know, my friend Jay just closed down Moe's in Toluca Lake, which has been my go-to joint for like, since he opened it, 18 years. I walked in there when he was literally nailing stuff together. Hey, what's this going to be? Oh, it's a cool new restaurant. I've been eating there ever since. And it's a prime location. I mean, it's just as good as it gets.
Well, what did it just turn into?
And he turned it into the Continental because he was trying to go upscale. Because he was just tired of doing Moe's forever. You know?
And so it's the same owner?
Same owner.
See, I wasn't aware of
No, but so what happened was they did it, and then like the transition didn't go well. They, you know, because I think Jay was on the edge of retiring anyway, and the transition was really rough, and the staff didn't get the menu and all this kind of stuff. So just one night he just said fuck it and closed the place down. It's gone. Sold it. And it's sitting there right now, the building's for sale. And so I thought we could do mushi, meat sushi. You know, but make it nice. You know how I barbecue, right? I mean, I was saying like I could do lemon garlic quail surrounded by some other thing with like a dry white cheese inside of it.
That's a good street to have a restaurant.
You couldn't get a better location in the valley, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent of La Cienega on the other side of the
right.
hill.
Yeah, 65 mushi. And so we'd make these little rolls that are unique, but they're Western food, clearly. Then you serve healthy stuff with it and Diet Coke, you know, like iced tea. Yeah, I just need some funding. If somebody can give me about $200,000-$300,000, I can open it. So let me know. I know how to do restaurants too. I'm a cooking mofo, but I used to
Restaurants, golf, guitar.
You know me. I worked in a restaurant for a long time, like managing it. So I know. How, man, that's just barely even warm. So you guys want to see the inside of this amp?
Oh, this is stone cold now.
Yeah, the tubes are. The power transformer is just barely. So probably what I should do is bring a light over here.
See, I was thinking, what happens if I do this?
Here, let me bring this light over.
Well, that's
Maybe probably too close. See if you can back up a little bit.
Wait, if I gotta stop moving. That's pretty okay. Start talking.
Well, anyway, so here's the hybrid board. You know, the
Okay.
preamp stuff.
Let me stop moving.
Back up a little more so you can see that. A little more. So you can see half of it's hand wired, and half of the preamp is all on the circuit board, and then there's the loop that's sitting right there. And this is the same thing as the Big Whiskey. It's the same board. We're using them both, the same board on both.
Get closer a minute again. And let the focus.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. It's basically the same amp, only it's. Let me bring out the hand wired version, and we'll compare them side by side. Hold on a second.
I'm just trying to get the reflection not here. And unfortunately, what happens is there's a huge delay.
So okay, so here's the hand wired one. You can see it's a pretty complex amp. So you can tell how much more consistent this is going to be. Amp horn, look away, kids. It's a very complex amp. So
go vertical on that for a minute.
all right.
Let's see what happens if we do this.
So you can see how much cleaner the hybrid board is. And there's stuff, this is a new kind of board where the traces are cut in vertically instead of horizontally, so the traces are really deep and really heavy. And it's just primo modern 21st century stuff. It's not just the standard, of course I can't really hear as well, but let's put this
Kind of makes you wonder how many amp makers will broadcast the inside of their work on the net. Yeah.
Well, that's because they're...
There's another amp that was sitting next to that on the bench that I won't mention who made it, but it's a 20-watt amp.
Oh, it's on the bench to the right?
It's on the bench to the right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and it's like
Something Dave's working on.
one preamp tube and two EL84s
Right.
that socket mounted
Yeah.
tubes. And
How does the gain knob work, Dan? Well, basically what it
if
is
you turn it to the right, it gets louder.
it gets gainier.
Gets louder.
It's allowing more signal into the control grid on that tube. That's all it's doing. So those traces are really deep. It's a very deep, thick board, and the traces are cut in deeply instead of laying the copper all out across the top.
So they're farther from each other and they don't interact and make noise.
Exactly. And this is NASA stuff that Tracy, our engineer, does with JPL. It's not normal audio type production, so we had to use a place here in LA to do it because there's not many places that do it. But it's one of the tricks that Tracy knows from working. Literally, he puts stuff on the space shuttle. You know, he designs boards this big that have 10 times as much circuitry as that, and it has to work in space, you know, under extreme conditions. So this is a Tonka toy for this guy.
You can't even breathe out there.
Apparently not.
I've heard that. I don't know. I've
But
never been there.
Do farts smell in space, though? Like if you're in a space shuttle together and you're like, oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, because you have a oxygen atmosphere in the space shuttle.
But there's no gravity, though. Does it just...
Yeah, it just dissipates. Everybody smells it. Not just who's sitting next to you.
Yeah, Justin says, or here, so the audio stuff doesn't matter. I'm not sure what you mean, Justin. You're responding to something I said. I'm sorry. They smell like steak, says Alex Sorokin. That's funny.
You can't hear in space because there's no atmosphere.
There's no sound waves through the air.
Yeah.
Like germanium that was on the shuttle, right? Yeah.
Who here knows why everybody knows that sound travels at 1,170 feet per second at sea level, right? Well, how come when you're underwater...
I thought it was 700.
No, 1,170 feet per second at sea level.
No,
you're thinking miles per hour.
Are you saying feet per second?
Feet per second.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm thinking...
So...
it keeps going in the direction your ass was
For those of you that are scuba divers or have been underwater, how come when you tap on your tank or something or hear a noise, the sound sounds like it's coming from everywhere? It's non-directional. Who knows the answer to that question?
Jacques Cousteau.
No, one of these guys should know. If we lived underwater,
yes,
our heads would have to be about this much bigger,
yeah,
to be able to figure out directionality. You're closer, Bill. Actually, what happens is, the water sound travels at about 6,000 feet per second underwater. Therefore, our ears are not far enough apart where we can understand directionality.
You can't paint a good enough picture.
Right, but if our heads were 6 feet in diameter, about 6 times the size of that 1170.
So sort of like Jay Leno.
Yeah, then we could tell where that was coming from.
Right.
And there, I just fulfilled the objective of today's show, Tech Talk.
Forget about Bill Nye. Miles Rose.
We have Tech Talk.
Yeah, we meant to do it. I invited Miles over for a Tech Talk, and I had so much fun playing the amp, I screwed you. I'm sorry.
Well, we just did Tech Talk.
That was it.
That was it. We didn't... It's not quantity, it's quality.
Well, one guy asked how the gain knob works, so we told him.
Yeah.
So that was techie. I think so. Do you guys have any other questions? We can just throw it open right now. We got Miles here. Like, this guy's forgotten more than most people know. So if you have
when you get old and dementia,
you're forgetting more all the time.
Yeah.
That scale is tipping, unfortunately. So you better ask him before next week when he's forgotten 5 other things. But we'll just throw it wide open. You want to go into...
my inheritance is, what I'm gonna get from my mother is dementia. That's gonna be my, you know.
Dementia and a vase. What did you get from your... Let's get this mic closer to you, actually. I think we...
Actually, if it gets too close and people can actually hear me.
Then they'll smell, yeah.
Then that takes the whole cool vibe out of the show.
Yeah. So one of the things you and I were talking about, Miles, were the choice of preamp tubes in here. And it was a funny story because I've always been a big proponent of long plate tubes in the preamp for my normal 65s because they're low gain and, you know, all these sorts of things. But finding out those are not the best for a gained up circuit. And also the quality of those is going down. Our reject rate is increasing rapidly on those. Like to the point where I'm almost thinking I might have to quit doing it on the regular amps.
Actually, I'm going to steal one of these and give people a little lesson if I can hold this steady up front.
Good question for you, though, from Bill's studio. Why does an EL84 sound more musical than an EL34?
Basically, they're used differently in the circuit. An EL84 was designed to approximate or be close to an EL34 response and tone and things in a smaller bottle. And there's certain things you can do, but the construction is different. And you're going to push the tube into compression and saturation, the smaller tube, much more quickly.
I think it depends on the use also. Like
a Fender hot rod.
Like in a hi-fi, 34s are much more musical.
Well, if you listen to old hi-fis, the old Dynacos and the old Icos.
Yeah, you're like my Dynaco ST70 with 34s and it sounds insane.
But if you listen to smaller stuff that's not that high in wattage that used EL84s in a grid-biased arrangement, they're very musical and they're very, they just only produce maybe 15 or 20 watts.
Yeah, they're low B plus, and then the grids are really low compared to the plates. But let me answer one real quick here. Sorry to interrupt. Justin asked, the reject rate from what? Microphonics or performance consistency? Both. And noise, just floor noise on the long plates is getting almost to the point of being unacceptable.
Now, when I came here today, and I noticed that Dan, for the first time, was using 12AX7Cs or Chinese 12AX7s, which a lot of Marshall people really, really like. In fact, there's even such a thing in generation 4, 5, and 6. People say NOS, Chinese 12AX7s, which I find, there's
hey man, the world goes forward.
People that seek those out. But Dave Friedman uses a lot of 12AX7Cs because they're linear and they don't have any quirky characteristics. And a lot of people in Marshalls like them. But I turned to Dan and I said, you're using generation 9.
Right, and these are the ones that I chose. You know, take a mic with you. They can't hear you over there, so go up. There you go. Go back up just a little bit. You're too close. A little more. Hold it straight up and down and back up a little bit.
Well, except I need to...
So it's focusing on me. Go right in the middle of the camera. Just look at the camera instead of the screen. You'll get it. There you go. There it is.
Okay, see the lower mic, Dan?
Yes.
You can start explaining that it has 8 sides.
Right, that's an octagonal mica.
Okay. So...
Alex, I'll answer your question here in a second, though.
Now I can come back here.
I'm going to get some water.
Basically, the lower mica that was back there, I don't mean at the lower part of the tube. On the upper part of the tube, there were 2 micas right next to each other. And the lower of that upper pair, if it's octagonal, where it contacts the sides of the bottle, if it's octagonal, it's generation 9. If it's square, it's generation 8. If it's round, it's generation 7.
You guys getting all this?
And Generation 9 is the best unless you have an older 4, 5, 6.
Man, well, we did blind testing with these, and these are the ones that I chose. Oh, we're done. You don't need to plug it back in.
No, I want to plug it in and make sure it lights up.
Oh.
But I didn't.
So Alex Sorokin asks...
is he the guy that wrote The West Wing?
No, that's Alan.
Adam.
Can you?
Dad, right?
It's probably related. He's here in LA, I think. Can you revisit how to properly turn a tube amp off with a standby switch? I recall you once saying you just hit power when first power. No need to go through the standby process. Yeah, to me, turning it off is turning it off. You can just turn it off at the power. The importance of the standby is so that you can warm up the cathodes of the tube before you send any signal through it, because asking a cathode to work when it's cold can strip the cathode material off of it. So
but if you have a tube rectified amp, if you were to flip everything on at once, you wouldn't have cathode stripping because the rectifier has to warm up.
Yeah, exactly. It's just being ultra careful. Even with, they didn't put standby switches on AC30s,
Well, they didn't put standby switches on your car.
Yeah.
All the radios that were like in your 1960 Ford and your 1955 whatever.
But if you turn your amp on without using the standby, to be safe, just don't play it for a minute. Right. Let it sit there.
Let it warm up.
But all the really old amps you look at didn't have standby switches on them. They just had a power switch.
Macintosh power amps didn't have a standby.
Right, because the common knowledge with tube gear was you let it sit for a minute before you play through it. But the standby switch, I think, was really for the most part added for safety reasons. Like if a tube's going to blow, it'll, I don't know. It's just one of those features that we don't need, but we've been convinced we do need.
To Willie, who's asking a common symptom of an EL84 wearing out, you're never going to hear it because it happens over time.
It goes brown, though.
Until you replace it, and then you're going to go, oh my God. As an example, Brad Paisley, on his amps...
Like 8 hours or something?
Every 30 hours with every 10 shows.
Okay.
3 hours per show.
Yeah.
With sound check.
That's about how long they sound brand spanking new.
Right.
And then they only sound like usable to me up to about...
Every 10 hours, the output section on all the amps are replaced.
After about 100 hours, they to me, they get a little bit dull.
But even after... Buddy Whittington has an amp that I blueprinted and made match. All the resistors and everything.
Yeah, you did a Dumble on it.
It was a clone of my same amp. And when he would come out here, he would borrow my amp over his amp.
Right.
Because he said it always sounded better. And I said, yeah, the reason it sounds better is 2 days ago, before you were coming out, I put new fresh output tubes in it.
Sure.
And he would play the fresh output. He would play his output tubes for months.
Willie says, so if my amp seems less bright, it could be aging EL84s.
Totally.
Yeah, how many hours are on it, Willie?
Less bright, less distinct, less punchy, less everything.
There's bad news and good news about 84s. The bad news is they're not long life tubes. The good news is they're cheap. So, you don't get your cake and eat it too in the tube world ever.
The Green Phillips 12AX7s, they're pretty good, but look at the date code from 1988 on. They're not good, as good. They're still good, but they're not as good as 1987 and before. And all of them will have date codes on them. It's also on the box, the white box they come in.
So, Willie, yeah, if your amp you got a few years on your amp with 84s, you're probably long overdue for a fresh set of tubes. And in my opinion, the only really good 84s out right now are JJs. I highly recommend those. The other ones sound good, but the JJs are... when I was building the first London...
They sound the most like vintage.
ANOS. I had Mullard EL84s. I had Telefunken EL84s. I had Amprex EL84s. I had Valvo EL84s. I had Tungsram EL84s. And believe it or not, I like the JJs the best. I mean, the Mullers are really good. I mean, but they had that really narrow mid-range notch that Mullards can have. Not like Mullard 34s, which are a lot broader, but the JJs are fantastic. I mean, you're not losing anything by using the JJ 84s, and that's the only current production power tube I can say that about. I mean, I really like their 6v6s because they're a good sounding tube. They don't necessarily, they don't really sound like a vintage 6v6.
No, they sound and they trace more like a 6L6 than a 6V6.
And the sound is a blend of 6V and 6L to me, but this sounds just like a great old EL84. I mean, they're just really good. How many hours does one get out of 6v6s? About double what an EL84, a couple hundred hours before you'll really benefit from a change.
If it's grid biased, like in a deluxe reverb, they'll go 100 hours easy. I mean, 1,000 hours easy.
Oh yeah, grid biasing's a little easier because what people don't understand with a cathode biased amp, when you're not playing it, it's wide open.
Yeah, they're running at 100%.
It's when you play it that it goes down. So it just sounds better cathode bias. So that's a technical term right there.
See, and that's where Dan and I disagree. I like grid biased amps. He likes cathode biased.
Yeah, but he's old. He can't hear anything. Sorry, had to do it. Well, that's good. So we're about 20 after now. I need to kind of wrap up. Any other tech questions you guys have for Miles while he's here? Nothing about like the lunches and all the girls. The whiskey is grid biased. Yeah, the big whiskey is. This one's cathode biased.
I have an amp that Carl Verheyen used to use a lot that I built that was a over 400 volts on the plate and the screens for 6 V6s, and the only tubes that'll run in that amp, and it's cathode biased, and the only tubes that'll run in that amp, they have to be NOS, and they last like about 5 to 10 hours before they blow up.
So we got a really important question here from Haas that I overlooked before he's asked it twice. Why do women like scented candles? I think it's so they can fart. But that's just me.
I don't know. And I've lost 3 different dogs and 3 different houses to 3 different ex-wives, and I still can't answer why women like
You've heard of
candles.
7 brides for 7 brothers? 3 brides and 3 dogs for Miles.
Actually, some of you might be aware that last night was one of the first times I was going out with a group of people that if their combined ages
or less than
were older than me.
Oh, I see.
It's like
must have been like 6 people.
5.
Keith Johns, do I have to bias my Ventura? No, that's cathode biased. You can just swap the tubes out there. What's your favorite old 12AX7, Miles? Ross Fletcher asks.
Favorite, the old Raytheon.
The Raytheon, okay.
Raytheon is my favorite, and Raytheon.
Okay. KMX Rocks just scored 2 NOS 6881s. You mean 5881s?
5881s.
You probably typoed there from KCA NOS. Good. Mike is the good guy to get them from. Because scented candles make you leave the room. I always thought it was just they like scented candles so they can be human and not be a,
V1 on Little Elvis is the closest
to the input jack.
The input jack.
Yeah. V1 on most amps is always closest to the input jack.
Yes, I have played with EL37s, kind of a 6L6 version. An EL37 is kind of like a British 6L6. And I used to run those in a Plexi 50 that was a THD amp, and I ran those for a while in that.
Oh, he's saying the 12X7WA is a GE 6681.
Oh, that's just that's a military designation, and that's like saying a 7025.
Well, he typed 6881 before. Now he's got 6681. Yeah. So which one is it? Damn it! we're confused. We're guitar players. Well, at least Miles has a strap. Miles can play guitar.
I have a lot of straps.
That was too easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I just threw you a big softball. Hey, can you hit that? 6681. All right. Justin has some EL37s he's going to run in a Magnetone 260. Right
That'll
on.
work. Just, check the bias. Yeah, the 260s and the 280s are a bit easier to work on than the, 450 or 480 or whatever the one is with the really crazy tremolo.
Let's see. How often does a rectifier tube go? Well, it just depends on how hard you beat up the amp. And
Rectifier tubes generally last forever if they're NOS ones.
Yeah.
Because there's no impurities. Rectifiers don't wear out. They either work or they don't.
Or they just fail. And it's very rare that they do fail.
And when they fail in short, the quickest way to tell that you have a bad tube rectifier is if you turn on an amp and the AC light comes on. But as soon as you take it out of standby to go to play, the AC fuse blows, your rectifier's bad. So a lot of times people will plug in another fuse, turn it on, and it blows again and blows again and blows again.
What does a rectifier do? Well, a rectifier takes half of the sine wave out of the electrical wave, which is a sine wave, and just gives you the top. Right? So you get DC.
It's a first step in changing AC to DC.
Right. Have I started? Okay, Dave G, modern 12AX7 recommendation. What kind of amp are you going into? That really matters. It's what I've come to understand.
It's also a lot of personal preference. Actually,
right. Is it a high gain amp, low gain amp, multi-gain stage, simple amp?
There's really no right.
Oh, Little Elvis in London. Oh, okay. Well, for those, I still...
The Tungsol.
The Tungsol 12X7 is great for the phase inverter. I still like, in those amps, the long plate.
JJ803S.
Right. There's only two that are available now in the modern world, is the JJ ECC 803S, which is the 0 in the middle of the numbers means it's their high grade. So like instead of ECC 83, which is a 12AX7, the 803.
There's a Sawtuck 12AX7
and then the
LPS.
LPS and the LP. They're really the same tube, only one has a spiral winding for the filaments. But you can't use the LPS in a cathode follower because those spiral windings will pop. So you can go with the LP just to be safe.
And then there's the up-priced version of an LP that's silkscreened differently and comes in a different box.
Right.
That they call the Mullard reissue, which is the same tube from Sawtech.
Sure.
Just with a different price.
Yeah, the Sawtech Mullards are not Mullards, by the way. He just bought the rights to screen that name on them. They're just Electro-Harmonix tubes.
It's like the Tungsol. If
Right.
you look at the Tungsol reissue,
It's not a Tungsol,
I posted on my Facebook page pictures of a real Tungsol 12AX7 and the Tungsol reissue, which they resemble each other about as much as Dan and I resemble each other.
That's right. So Willie says, do you think the Ventura is any better as either a head or a combo? No, it just depends on what you want to use it for.
It's personal preference.
I personally like the Ventura as a head going through a 212 or a 412. I think it sounds sick. But if you need a rocking little combo to grab and go with you, it works fantastic. So it just depends on what you need it for.
Well, then the other thing is you can disconnect. If you have the combo,
yeah, you can put extension speakers. Yeah,
you disconnect the internal speaker and run a speaker cable over to whatever you want.
Well, also what you can do with it, and I've done this, my little weird gigs where I have girl singers, so it can't blast on stage. So I'll have the combo set up in the back, and I'll run an extra 112 off to the side of the stage right next to me, so I can hear myself beautifully, and I'm not pissing off anyone else on stage. But then, the rest of the band can hear me sort of coming from the back. But I've got another 112 right here next to me, and I can hear myself perfectly.
The thing with the Ventura is you can play the Hollywood Bowl or something, because everybody once you have a half a megawatt of house power behind you,
see, it'd be awesome.
In these huge venues, you can use
right.
any size amp you want.
But it's not a quiet amp. I mean, like
no,
it's loud. You know, I never feel underbass.
I remember
it's twice as much power as Little Elvis.
I remember when we did Little Elvis, we did the dB testing.
Oh yeah,
you know,
and we got like 118 dB.
It was laughable. I made Dan and Mike measure the power output because they were saying, yeah, it's around 12 watts.
It's 12 watts clean.
And I was saying, no, it's not. You know,
it's like 16 all the way up, but it's 12 watts clean. That's all we could get out of it. So, okay, guys. Well, we're coming up on 1:30. I think we should call it a day. Anyway, thanks, Miles. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you made it over. We'll have you back soon and do more tech talk. Because this ended up being the Lil Whiskey. And I will try to I had a bunch of videos to post. I know I'm behind. They're not archiving the videos here on NMB yet, so it makes it kind of some work. But I'm behind. I'll get to it. I know like 50 of you have written me saying, hey man, where's the show from last week, you asshole? And hi, Ray Lang. Thank you guys for all the good questions and, all the good stuff. We appreciate it sincerely. I hope you dug the new little amp. I don't know if I mic'd it up very well today, but you can get the idea. Yeah, I got a Ron Ellis episode. One of them got smoked, too. Thank you, Haas, for joining us all the way from the north of England. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you again, and thanks to Miles Rose, and big thanks to Tracy Norton and Dave Friedman for helping me out with the Little Whiskey. I'm extremely pleased. So, mushy mushy. That's right. And I'm going to open my new restaurant. I'm going to start a Kickstarter campaign. I think I need about $300,000.
That's what I was going to suggest, Kickstarter.
Yeah. And because I would love to have a restaurant. I'd love to cook.
Because if you could only raise $800 or $900, you could buy a hot dog cart.
Yeah. There's a lot of competition in that market. It's too deep, I think. All right, guys. Appreciate you sincerely. We'll see you next week. Take care.